We're going to start you off by looking at the team site. The team site is the most common site template across SharePoint versions. The reason for that is because it gives you a starting group of features that will help your project or team succeed in collaborating. First of all, let's talk a little bit about what a site is. A site is grouping of features. So what that means is, think of your SharePoint as a house. So your site is the house, and then inside the house you can have different features, different rooms, different furniture. So a site is a grouping of these features. Now in 2013, the really exciting thing is that there's a new look and feel. But don't worry, all of the same common elements that you've known to love and that you know are here for you to use. However, 2013 provides a brand new capability called Getting Started. This Getting Started allows you to choose your exact features that you want to add to this template. And now Getting Started also is here because SharePoint has actually reduced the amount of features that are included within the team site template. The great thing though is as you get used to this template and you use the Getting Started, you can customize it and make your own template. So again, the next time you want to create a team site, all of the features, those rooms or furniture within your house that you liked using and want other teams to be able to use, you can do so. Let's take a look at the common elements. First one is navigation. Let's take a look at the brand new look and feel. The navigational elements are the same as they have been in SharePoint and are most common across website architecture. First, we have the top link global navigation. So in SharePoint, we like to call this the top link. That's not really the common language. More commonly, it's called global navigation. The term global navigation is used because most often, this top navigation element is used across multiple sites. It doesn't have to be, but usually it's globally across multiple sites so that you can go from one team site to another. Next, we have a section that's called Site Activities, or at least that's what I call it, because it's the grouping of all of the actions and activities that you can now do in SharePoint 2013. You can see sharing, following, syncing a document library from your team site, your name, and access to different features. Now, what used to be called site actions is a little cog, copying other web features that you can see on common tools that you use every day and everyday websites. Also, you can press on Edit to edit the page, and there's a new Focus on Content button that allows you actually to hide the navigation. Next, we have the Quick Launch. The Quick Launch is a SharePoint term. It's intended to have the most common links that you want to see across the site wherever you are. You can also call it the left navigation or the local navigation, because unlike the global that is usually managed by a single group of people, the local navigation is managed by the team itself and can change depending on the team or project's needs. Let's take a look at the new feature, Getting Started. You can see on the Quick Launch or left navigation that there's only a limited amount of starting lists here. In comparison, the team site of the past used to have calendars, task lists, discussions, and other lists and libraries. Now you only see a few. Here, Getting Started is a guided tour to add additional features to your site. These choices change depending on who you are and what permissions you have. The example here is a site owner of an Office 365 site that has even additional features than your on-premise version. Finally, let's take a look at the familiar ribbon. This was introduced in Office 2007 and introduced to SharePoint in SharePoint 2010. It's a common navigation across all of the Office applications, the purpose of which is to show you all of the different attributes at one time instead of hiding them under different menu options. You can see that there are tabs on the top that show up in line with the SharePoint activities that we showed before. Also, a good thing is that this ribbon is used the same way across lists and libraries, those rooms that are in your house of a SharePoint site. Again, the tabs, an individual that's focused on an item, in this case an event, and then an individual tab that's focused on the entire room, or in this case a calendar. The other thing about the ribbon that's known in Office is that it changes with the context of your actions. So in this case, I'm editing the text within a page on the SharePoint site. I am presented with the option to format text, to insert an item, the items and list, or actually features of the web part, which is the library on the page. Now let's take a look at how we put this all into action. Welcome to the new look and feel of SharePoint 2013 and a new team site template. Let's start off talking about the navigation of the team site. Again, we have universal elements that you've come to know and love from websites all across the land. First, we have an image up to the left here, in this case the SharePoint image that can be changed out if you'd like to. This goes back home to the team site itself. This is in case you're in other locations within the site. Also, at this level, you see the link on the global navigation that also goes back to the team site. Again, this is the global navigation. This allows me to go back to home, and if there were other sites within this site structure, I would have links to those sites so that I could easily get back and forth from them from no matter what other site I am on. Next, let's talk about the site activities. The site activities are here on the right-hand side. First, we'll talk about sharing. Sharing allows you to provide access to anyone in your organization, and in some cases, if you're using Office 365 or your information technology staff has set it up, individuals outside of your organization. Next, we can follow. If we follow this site, it will mark it down in our personal site and provide a link so we can always know how to find this site again. Syncing will sync the document library that is attached to this team site to your local desktop. We can see it here. A piece of the site activities that comes from SharePoint 2010, 2007, and even 2003 is the drop-down menu next to your name. This drop-down allows you to go to your personal site, and in SharePoint 2013 it directs you to the About Me page, and also allows you to sign out. In 2013, the Site Actions button has now been changed into a cog. It's the same functionality that you've seen before, and it adapts depending if you're a site owner or site contributor. New also to 2013 are links in this top blue banner that the color can also be changed if you'd like, that link directly into your personal site. A news feed is a centralized feed of all the activities that have been going on within your organization. Syncing is allowing personal documents to sync to your desktop or any mobile device. Sites is where your followed sites are recorded so that you always can find them. Also, another new piece in the site activities is a Focus on Content button. This Focus on Content button removes the navigation from the page. If you're working with a big list or library, this is useful so you could see all of the columns. Also within the site activities is the search. In this case, we're looking at a full search, enterprise search that has choices of searching everything, people, conversations, and the default for this search box is this site. If you're using SharePoint Foundation, you'll only be able to use the search for this site. Now let's take a look at the quick launch or left navigation. Here you'll see in the starting template that you have a limited amount of lists. You just have the link to the home site, you have the link to a documents library, and a link to site contents. Site Contents is the link that brings you to view the inside of the house. Here you can see all of the list libraries and other apps that are already installed within your site template. In this case, we only have documents, site pages that are holding the pages that create the site, assets that control images that you might use across the site, and the microfeed to support your newsfeed. Let's go back home by pressing on the image. Now let's take a look at getting started. The first thing I want to show to you is how it changes depending on the permissions that you may have. Here you see Jen Smith, who has lower level permissions than Adam Learn. You can see that she only has two choices: to share her site, which was also up in the site activities, or to add lists and libraries and other apps, which goes directly to the site contents where we were before. Let's go back to Adam. Adam has a few more interesting items that he can choose from. He can not only share his site or add lists and libraries, but he also can decide whether to assign this team site as a project site because he's working on a deadline, change the style, or even change that logo and description that I mentioned that could be changed. In this case, let's say we want to turn this team site into a project site. So I'll click on Working on a Deadline, and you can see that it will automatically create tasks and calendar. Let's go ahead and add them. Now, what's the difference? First, you can see something that is called the Project Summary web part. You can see instantaneously that in SharePoint 2013, you're presented with a visual representation of your tasks. However, if you want to go to a standard list view, you can click on Edit and be able to edit the tasks directly. Let's go back to the team site. Let's look at the other changes that have occurred. If you notice on the quick launch, or the left navigation, we've added both the tasks and the calendar. This was automatic because they're important pieces of the team site to be able to have access to no matter where you are. Let's take a quick look at the calendar and the new look and feel. You can see a calendar that's much easier to read, but we still have the same navigational elements that were on the home page of the site. The quick launch, the global navigation, and the site activities. Let's go back to the team site. Now that we've used the quick start, we should remember to remove it so that it doesn't take up space on our home page. If you ever want it back, as the note is saying, you can come back to Site Actions and go back to Getting Started. Now we have a working team site that we can use. Let's continue and see how the ribbon supports actions within your team site. If I click on this Project Summary Timeline, you'll see a tab at the top that says Timeline. If I click on this, the ribbon for the timeline itself will expand. Also, you'll see next to it that I have the Page tab. These are editing details about the page itself. If I want to remove the ribbon from my view, I click back on Browse. Let's see how the ribbon changes depending on what I click on. I'll go down to the Documents. Now you'll notice that on the top left, it says Browse, Page, Files, and Library. Let's take a look at the Files tab. Within the Files tab, you'll see all of the ribbon items that you would normally see within a document library. Also, if you'll notice, items that are not eligible to be clicked on are grayed out. Let's take a look at the Library tab. Here, because Adam is a site owner, all of the items are able to be clicked on, specifically under the Settings section. Notice that each section, just like in Office, has a name. Let's take a look at the view that Jen will have. Here, you'll notice that some of the same features that Adam had available to him, Jen does not. Let's refresh this page so we can see the timeline again and add an item so we can see how the ribbon changes. Here, you can see that I have, in a task list, I have a ribbon that says Tasks, and there are specific items that are associated with the task itself, with editing it in the Quick View, with adding it to the new visual timeline, and if we go to List, there are some different columns than there were when we were in the document library. However, again, the same elements are included within sections, so you can easily find the different actions that you would like to take.